long weekend. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Wing Column team. Good morning, C. Good morning, Angela
Morning.
Griffin. Uh, good morning to everybody logged in here on Conversation with Jay and on the Wing Column channel. How
Yeah,
you doing, C?
I'm doing good, man. So, I have this thing that I want to share with you guys, and I was doing some reading this morning. I just came across it, and I didn't know this debate actually existed, but apparently it does. And I want to hear your thoughts about it, Jay. It's the topic of cereal. Is cereal soup? Now I know
It's
it's
cereal
weird,
soup.
but apparently this debate actually exists. Is cereal soup? Because think about it, the characteristics. It's liquid. It's combining food, different types of food in a liquid form, and it's in a bowl, and it's eaten with a spoon. What do you think?
You're asking me now?
Yeah.
No, I don't think cereal soup.
Well,
Yeah, no.
apparently there is, you know, there are people out there who is saying that it's food, it's soup, and it's some go as far as saying it's breakfast soup.
Well, I mean, it's not soup because cereal doesn't come with milk. You add milk to cereal. It comes in a box. It comes dry.
Yeah, but when you eat in in put it combining everything together, then it's
I
you're
understand what you're
saying
saying, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that's your choice. Lots of people eat dry cereal. You ever run out
really?
of milk and have to eat dry cereal? You grew up
That's
privileged.
crazy. Then that's just chips now.
You are privileged. I've had to eat dry cereal and run out of milk.
That sounds like it's just chips now. So there
Good
you
morning,
go.
Aretha.
You brought the rise of another debate.
Um, I wanted to talk about risk today. Do you take a lot of risks? See,
I'm sorry?
do you take a lot of risks?
No, I wish I took more risk. I remember thinking over the weekend that I'm gonna be a yes man. I'm gonna say yes to most things, um, and see what happens. I'm gonna try saying yes to like opportunities and just say yes. Try to say yes more because I realize my default is always like no or I don't know or I don't think I can. So I'm gonna try being more of a yes man.
Well, I mean, you don't have to always take. I mean, if you think about it, really, what is the indicator that you have that you're not taking enough risks, right? Like that's what we would have to see, right? There's a specific indicator in the book. I think it's called Failing Forward, the book I was reading this morning by John Maxwell. And his indicator is if you are succeeding at everything that you do, then you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. And that means you're not taking enough risks. So, and sorry guys, you know when you start getting better from being sick and then your voice goes, but you feel fine? Yeah, that's what's happening to me now. So if my voice sounds weird, that's that's why. So I mean, I encourage you to take more risks, and I encourage you to say yes to more things. But also remember, there's like a gauge, right? Like if life is a cakewalk, and you're succeeding at most things or everything, and you're not getting much pushback or challenge, then it probably means that you're not pushing yourself hard enough, which means you're not taking enough risk, right? um, let me ask you one last question, and I'm asking everybody here. Please let me know, guys. And I've asked you guys this question before, and you probably know where I'm going with it by now, but would you rather run 10,000 miles in the wrong direction or stay still? Now, obviously, nobody's running 10,000 miles. Let's say 10,000 feet. But which would you rather? 10,000 feet in the wrong direction or stay still? What do you think, C?
I would I would say stay still
Stay
because at
still.
least you're still ahead than where you would have been if you ran in the wrong direction.
Or are you ahead?
Yeah, because if you're running in the wrong direction, then where you were when you started would have made you would have been ahead.
See, that's a common misconception because running in the wrong direction is still running. So you still learn how to run. You still learn how to navigate the path. You still learn those little things that you never thought about, like, oh, these shoes are too tight, or I got to run this way, or let me make sure that I run a certain way in this terrain. You actually learn a lot more, even if you're going in the wrong direction. So when you come back to the right direction, you're actually better suited to run in the right direction than if you had stayed still to begin with.
Interesting. So this is like a glass half empty kind of question.
One person hesitates because they feel inferior, right? They're not confident in going that direction, or maybe they feel like I'm not, fit for it or whatever. But while one person hesitates because they feel inferior, the other person is busy making mistakes. In other words, running in the wrong direction and becoming superior. And that's right, Angela, and it makes you stronger, right? Right? You become superior actually through those wrong directions, through those mistakes, right? You become superior than the person that hesitates and stands still, right? What I wrote down this morning is risk should be validated by the goal itself, right? So decide whether or not the goal is worth the risk involved. So I really do like what you said earlier, see, about becoming more of a yes man and trying new things or doing things. Also keep in mind that you have to tie that to the goal, right? You don't want to just be reckless, right? Maria said wrong direction. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. You don't want to be reckless with the risks that you take. You want to tie it to the goal, right? So what I wrote down is decide whether or not the goal is worth the risk involved. If it is worth the risk involved, then take the risk, right? Because the reality is everything is a risk, right? What could go wrong if you run the wrong direction? What do you think, see? What do you think could go wrong if you run the wrong direction?
um
And I'm sorry, I'm sorry I'm asking all these questions. I'm actually just putting you on the spot because I need to rest my voice.
oh gosh.
I'm throwing you the alley oop.
Okay, so it's my life today. Nah. I would say you become more prone to giving up because some people when they feel like they're wasting their time, they give up and then they change
Yeah,
course.
I'm more meant like in your real life, like the things that you say no to sometimes. What could go wrong? Like, for example, I've seen you say no to zip lining before, right? Like that kind of like what things that you would say no to?
Well, I could fall off the zip line and die.
Mhm. I knew you were gonna say something like that because I know a few things that you definitely say no to when it comes to like risk factors. Um, you want to hear some interesting stats?
Sure.
If you want to avoid risk, don't do any of the following. This is in the book. I wrote it down this morning. Don't drive, don't go in a car, don't go in an Uber because 20% of fatal accidents happen in a car. And don't travel via air, rail, or water, right? Air, rail, or water because 16% of fatal accidents happen in planes, trains, and boats. All right. Don't walk on the street either, okay? Because 15% of accidents happen in the street, just walking. And by the way, don't stay home either, because 17% of all fatal accidents actually happen at home.
Okay, so basically you're telling me not to exist.
What I'm telling you is what I wrote down here. What I'm telling you is security is mostly a superstition,
Hmm.
right? So when you feel like you don't want to take a risk, it's really actually like, and you feel like you're being more secure or you're playing it safe, it's mostly a superstition, right? And of course, we recognize that risk is real, and we say, is the goal worth taking this risk? Well, if you have to drive to work every day, or else you won't eat, you won't make any money, then yes, the goal is worth the 20% chance of something happening on the street, which is really less if you think about it, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's not a 20% chance that your car is going to crash. It's just that 20% of all fatal accidents happen in a vehicle. That's the stat. So it's not like 1 in 5 chance that you're going to crash your car. So relax. But my point is that your goal is worth more than the chance of getting into an accident, right? If you drive an Uber, for example, you're driving all day. My cousin drives a truck, and one of my best friends drive a truck. They're like they do deliveries, and they have they have risk in their job every day. My uncle works in a factory, right? And he has, even though he has his hard hat and his steel toe boots, and he has his license of forklift and all that stuff and the safety training, there's still a risk every single day that he goes to work, right? But the goal is worth the risk. Achieving the goal is worth the risk. And that's what I want to encourage you to see, and everybody on here, based on what I was reading this morning, it encouraged me that it's not that we shouldn't like ever play it safe, but it's more that you want to evaluate the goal and say, okay, how is this risk going to be worth it for this goal? And if I strike out, so what? Right? One of the things I wrote down is you risk failure if you try something bold because you might miss it. Okay? You risk failure if you try something bold because you might miss it. You might swing and miss, right? But you also risk failure if you stand still and try nothing new, right? You're also risking failure if you're standing still and not trying anything new at all, right? The less you venture out, the greater risk of the failure. The less you venture out, the greater risk of the failure. So I am overall encouraging people to take more risks for sure, because at the end of the day, like what I said, if you are succeeding at everything that you do, then you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough, and you're probably not taking enough risk. And at the same time, I'm also telling you, be smart with the risks that you take, right? Take risks, take more risks, and make sure that they're in support of your ultimate goal, not risk just for the hell of it or the thrill of it, but more because it's in support of your ultimate goal. And if your ultimate goal is to live life on the edge and have a thrill and, get that adrenaline rush, and you're adrenaline rush junkie, then go do that. Take that risk of, I don't know, bungee jumping off that building or whatever people do for adrenaline, right? But at the same time, if that's not something that's even part of your ultimate goal, there's no reason to take the risk, and take a better one, right? So take a better risk. Take a better risk. Good morning, lovely peaches. Risk for the reward. That's absolutely correct, right? So I wrote 5 things down that he says is the risk trap. But before that, I wrote 5 things down. Now he goes through 15 or 20 characteristics of don't dare try it, people. And then he goes through 15 or 20, actually it's 15 characteristics of do try it. I didn't have time to write all of them down, but if you guys check out this book, this is in chapter 12. The book, again, is Fail Forward by John Maxwell, one of the greatest leaders of our time. Okay, I'm a big fan of his. So I want to write down, I wrote down the don't try people, 5 things. And they're all start with R's. Okay, they all start with R's. Don't dare try it, people. Number 1, they resist the opportunities. When you're not taking that risk, you're resisting an opportunity on the other side. The reward, as Christina says, right? The reward. Okay. Number 2, rationalize their responsibilities. So they start saying, well, I have to do this, and then I'm tied to this, and I can't do this because, so it's just a bunch of excuses, right? Rationalizing your responsibilities just sounds like excuses to me. Okay. Um, they rehearse impossibilities. So they go through it over and over again, all these things that could happen. And what if this happens? And what does that happen? And what is, but none of this stuff is happening, right? None of the stuff is happening. And if you think about it, it's nearly impossible for it to happen. I mean, anything is possible if you want to go down that road. But if we're being realistic, this is pretty much as close to impossible as it gets, right? But they rehearse it in their mind. They rehearse impossibilities. They also rain on other people's positivities. So they're the negative Nancy's or negative. I don't want to say Nelly because one of my favorite clients' name is Nelly, but let's say negative Nancy's. Okay, I don't know a Nancy. So they rain on other people's parades. They start telling everybody else why they shouldn't do it. Meanwhile, they're not doing it. Ever have people like that in your life, right? They tell you what to do and what not to do when they've not done it and they aren't doing it, but they are somehow qualified to tell you that you shouldn't be doing it because they're just raining on your positivity. Okay. And then number 5, what I wrote is they review their inadequacies. So it's always that they're not going to be able to do it because they're a special case. I don't have this. I don't have that. Maybe it worked for you, but it won't work for me because, I'm the type of person that X, Y, and Z. I do want to go through that, by the way. See, can you write that down if you don't mind? Maybe this week or next week, I want to go through the growth mindset, the growth mindset, the levels of growth mindset. I actually would love to go through that that I created.
Sure thing.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the 5 characteristics of the don't try it people. Okay. I'm not going to go through the characteristics of the do try it people because you guys already know who you are. You're on this live. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening to this. So it's basically you, just the characteristics that you see when you look in the mirror. You are the do try it people. That's why you're here. However, sometimes we do fall into one of these traps. I wrote down 5 out of 6 of his traps. And sometimes we do fall into one of these traps as it pertains to taking risk altogether. And I just want to caution you guys because I fall into the traps just like the next person, and you will fall into the traps just like the next person because we're human beings. And sometimes we don't take the risk that we should. One of them is the embarrassment trap. And that is exactly what it sounds like. You don't risk it because what if it doesn't work out? Everybody's going to laugh at me, or I'm going to be embarrassed, or, I'm going to look stupid in front of my friends or family or loved ones or, colleagues or clients or something like that. That's the embarrassment trap. Don't fall into that trap. Okay. We should never, ever let our pride and ego get in the way of our success. Although it happens every single day to all of us, we try to limit that as much as we possibly can, letting our pride and ego get in the way of our success. And that often happens when we are too embarrassed to do things. I'm not the biggest fan of Kanye West these days. When he did come out, he really revolutionized a whole entire genre of music. And I remember I was in 9th grade when he came out with the album College Dropout. No, yeah, College Dropout, his first album. I think it was like 2005, something around there. And I remember listening to that music in our team bus because we played music when we used to go to basketball games. And I remember us rapping all the lyrics on our team bus going to the different schools to play basketball. And I remember him saying these lyrics: I woke up early this morning with a new state of mind, a creative way to rhyme without using knives and guns. And I remember thinking, like, that's not cool. Because at that time, everybody was really, that was really popular. We're talking about the environment that they lived in and came from, which was usually not the greatest. And but it was also relatable to a lot of the people who would listen to the music. But then also, it was like a lot of other people lived through that music, like lived a fantasy through that music, right? That's why you have so many suburban rap fans, because even though they don't live through in that community, they're able to experience that through the music. And it's like watching a movie, right? And it's cool to like dabble into that life, even though you don't actually have to live it or grow up in it. And so it worked for both. But you see, Kanye West was different. He didn't come from that. So he was doing the same thing, which was rapping about his own experiences going through life, but they were totally different than most of the popular rappers at that time, like 50 Cent or Jay-Z or um, you know, Snoop Dogg or Dr. Dre or even Eminem, right? These all were people who had totally different experiences. And I remember thinking like, this is corny, but I like it. And he took the risk. And he revolutionized music. He broke down the barriers and the doors for the next generation of artists to come in, like the Kid Cudis of the world, and the Drakes of the world, and the Wale's of the world, and the Big Sean's of the world. And like he broke down that barrier because you didn't actually now have to start, you didn't have to be lyrical miracle, right? You didn't have to be so lyrical, but also you didn't have to be rapping about guns and knives and selling rugs. You could now just rap about your everyday life experiences, even though you weren't from that. And it was accepted, but it was a risk. It was a risk that he took. And because of that risk, he broke down barriers. Now, this is a better story that I'm telling you guys than the story in the book. The story, the story in the book was, it was an inspiring story. I will give it that, but it didn't inspire me that much because it's a really old story. It's about a lady. I think her name is Melly. I think it's Melly or Amelia. I think it's Amelia, actually. You guys could look her up. Very, very impressive story. She was the first woman to do a lot of things as it pertained to flying. Um, because I think she was the first woman to cross the Atlantic Ocean on a plane. She was the first woman to fly at a particular altitude. She broke down a lot of barriers, and she took a lot of risk in obviously learning to fly and flying and excuse me, things like that, because she said she wanted to break that barrier down for other women in the future, so that other women could look to her and say, "Oh wow, we can do it too. If she can do it, I can do it." And make sure that she stamped the footprint of women in the aviation industry. And so it was a cool story. I just couldn't relate as much because it was really old. It's like from, I think, 1800, 1900, whenever they made planes. It was way back. It was I think it was after the Second World War, I believe, or the First World War. I think it was after the First World War, if I remember correctly. I wasn't paying attention to the story when I was reading it, to be honest, but I got the point. The point was, she looked at the goal, and she looked at the reward, and she took those risks. Okay, she didn't fall into the embarrassment trap, and I liken it to Kanye West, who sometimes, to be honest, he needs to fall into the embarrassment trap, because he never shuts up, and he says things that not only embarrass himself in a really, really bad way, but embarrass his entire family. And that's not good either. You want people to also take you seriously. Okay. You also want people to take you seriously. Um, so don't fall into the embarrassment trap. That's what I'm saying. Number two, don't fall into the rationalization trap. It's the second one I wrote down. He said six things. I only wrote down five. He said, don't fall into the rationalization trap, where you try to explain everything away. You're always trying to explain everything away so that you just don't do it. So you could rationalize in your mind why you're not going to take this risk and blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. If you know it's worth the goal, like what Christina said earlier, right? If it's worth the reward, and the reward is whatever is in support of your goal, right? Your ultimate goals could be multiple. But if you know it's worth it, don't argue against it. Don't try to rationalize why you're not going to go in this direction and stuff like that. Go and take the risk. Okay. Number three, don't fall into the unrealistic expectations trap. And what he talks about here is he says that you have to he says that you have to understand that all of this stuff does take work and commitment and time. And a lot of people, they're unrealistic with the the amount of work and commitment and time that this might take. And so they start it and then they stop right away because of all the work and time and commitment that it takes, right? Take going to the gym, for example. You might say, yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna commit to this, diet, and I'm gonna commit to this exercise plan. And you have these expectations that you're going to see results in like a week. Maybe that's what the exercise plan said, see results in as little as a week. And then you realize like this is a lot of work and I ain't seeing no results at all, right? That's usually the unrealistic expectations trap. And then you just stop risking it altogether because you're not seeing the expectations that you thought that you would see, which were unrealistic to begin with. Okay. I'll tell you right now, if you want to get more healthy, it's one of the hardest things that you're going to do, period. Right? To get more healthy is hard, even if you're already healthy. Like it's hard enough when you're not healthy, but when you are healthy. But if you're not healthy, it's even harder, right? It's just hard altogether. Um, but it's also very hard to be unhealthy. Okay, choose your hard, right? Being healthy is hard. Being unhealthy is also hard, right? Being obese and having diabetes and all these other things that come with not being healthy, heart disease and conditions like that, that is hard to live with. So you can choose your hard. My coach always used to tell me that. Being in a good relationship is hard. Being in a bad relationship is also hard. So choose your hard. Either um, put the work in and have a good relationship, or don't put the work in and have a bad relationship. But either way, it's hard. He says being broke is hard. Being rich is also hard. So choose your hard, right? You could either not put the work in and be literally poor and struggle through life, or you could put the work in and still struggle because putting the work in is hard, and you can have a comfortable living, right? So choose your hard. But that's what the unrealistic expectation trap is all about, right? Then we have number 4 or 5 is the timing trap, right? Don't wait for all the lights to turn green before you leave your house. It's never going to be the perfect time. It's never going to be the right time. And if it ever is the perfect time, it's just because God's timing is perfect and you so happen to follow that path. It wasn't anything you did. Okay? If you realize, wow, this was the perfect time for anything, if you've ever said that in your life, you tell me exactly what you did to make it perfect. You tell me what did you do? What was your contribution to make time this perfectly? You didn't do anything. You got lucky. Not lucky. You were fortunate, because I don't believe in luck either. Harder you work, the luckier you get. So don't wait for the perfect time, right? Don't fall into the timing trap, which is waiting for all the lights to turn green before you leave your house. Just go. Just go. And then number 5 is the inspiration trap. And we'll end with this. Don't fall into the inspiration trap. The inspiration trap says that you have to wait to be inspired. Artists have this a lot, right? They sit around, I got to be inspired first, right? As it was said in the book, the only difference between an amateur writer and a professional writer is an amateur writer waits to be inspired in order to write anything. To start writing, they wait to be inspired. And a professional writer just writes. They don't have to wait to be inspired. Because the professional writer knows this, that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. I'll say that one more time. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great, right? And so you have to put it number one. I just got to start, because you remember the 3-prong plug that we went through like in the summertime? I know some of you guys weren't with us at that time, but remember, there's 3 prongs to this plug. There's inspiration, there's motivation, and there's action. But all of the 3 lead into the other. So the beautiful thing is Inspiration leads to motivation. Motivation leads to action, and action leads to more inspiration, right? In other words, you might be watching this YouTube video right now. It inspires you. It just, lights a little bit of a fire in you to go and do something. You go and do it. You start seeing results. Then you're motivated to do more. You're like, okay, yeah, this is great. I'm motivated to do more. Once you're motivated to do more, what do? More action, right? So then you do more action. But then once you do more action, you start seeing even more results, which inspires you to do more. And then you're motivated, and then action, and then inspiration, and then motivation, action, inspiration, right? They lead one into another. But the beautiful thing is you can start at any one of those. You don't have to wait for inspiration. If you just start at action, you'll start seeing enough to inspire you to do more, which will then motivate you to do more, which will then lead to more action, which then leads to more inspiration. And you could start anywhere on there. So do not fall into the inspiration trap. Okay. Do not fall into the inspiration trap in which you are not taking the necessary risk to support your goals because you're just not inspired. And maybe you did fall into that trap, and this video helped you with that. Shout out to Andre. Andre said, I do not live in fear. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. This is a dangerous world. Yeah, we cannot live in fear, guys, because fear does not come from within. Fear is something that comes from outside. Okay. Fear is not part of the human spirit. It's not a part of our makeup. This comes from outside. Fear is not from God. It did not come from inside of us. We were not created to be fearful. If you don't believe me, just look at any baby. Any baby, they don't know anything about fear. It's just the world. It's the world that instills fear in them. As we grow up, then we become fearful and timid because of this world that we live in. And the spirit, the human spirit, fear is not native to the human spirit. That's what I'm saying. All right. So let's not fall fall for any of these traps, guys. I'm going to repeat them one more time. The embarrassment trap, the rationalization trap, the unrealistic expectations trap, the timing trap, or the inspiration trap. Let's not fall for any of these traps. Let's go and take the necessary risks to support our goals. And remember, if you are succeeding in everything you do, it means that you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough and you're not taking enough risks. So guys, why don't we go out there, go and be great, and go and take the necessary risks to support your goals. I'll see you all tomorrow morning.